I was still looking at the moon, reliving my past with Grax. There I was, not even a full-grown man, talking to the head of the crime family. The severely wrinkled and gray old human asked in his whispered voice, "What is your name, child?" I had no answer to that. Me? No name. Old Man Divers nodded, apparently misinterpreting what I was trying to say. "Good point. We shouldn't use names. What do you call yourself?" What do I call myself? I didn't call myself anything. Why would I do that? That was one of those things that made no sense to me, even when I was a little kid. Eventually, my voice dripping with barely hidden acidic hatred, I responded, "They call me the Wolf." Graximus, my orcish major domo, interrupted my story.
"But, Master, the Wolf, it's an excellent moniker to have. Why would you object?"
I nodded slowly. Maybe to others. But that was the vile moon elf's name for me. A slave name. I hated them and I hated it. Still, it's just what people would call me, until I made a name for myself. Well, the young golden-eyed lass helped with that. The Wolf, Part 2. Flames and Fire.
Level 2. Unchained Rogue 1. Knife Master. Fighter 1. Knife Fighter. New quest. Contract work. Dealing with the Wand Dealer. Optional. Don't get fingered. Don't leave witnesses.
It was my first time working with Amber. She had a good rep, and I liked the look of her. Slim, like me, eyes that are paying attention, and obviously where she gets her name from. I hope she's as smart as she seems, because looks alone won't cut it tonight. No, we have a real job tonight, and the first job where I'm completely in charge. The three of us split up at the entrance to the alleyway. Jimmy, wearing the disguise I made for him earlier, casually strolling along the block to act as our lookout. Amber shadowing me to the back door of the wand merchant's establishment. I had never robbed a mage before, but I'd taken a few precautions, and how different could it be from your regular in-and-out job? First at the back door, I bring my assurances out. There's my own tools, and the precious, tightly sealed pouch of fine sand. What did he call it? Otija dust? I opened it and sprinkled a bit around the lock, and then the entire frame of the mage merchant's back door. As I had been told to expect, there was a brief blue glow, specifically around the lock, that then faded away. Following my contact's previous instructions, I immediately put my tools to work. Amber and I were inside in less than 20 heartbeats, with the door closed behind us, and hopefully no alarm triggered. Smooth sailing so far. Now to find the target. This was a contract job, in which I had been paid a bit up front, for necessary supplies like the powder and my accomplices. I knew what I was looking for, a quick left turn up the back stairs to the private residence above the shop. We moved silently. My new armor was still a little stiff, but I had oiled it well to keep it from squeaking. Another door. This time the fine sand did not glow. Damn, what a waste. An easy interior lock, and I was in the mage's own bedroom. The safe was right where I had been told it would be, and indeed of a make I was familiar with. Probably the reason I had gotten the bid on the job. I set Amber to search the rest of the private room for loose coin or goods we could pawn easily. I set myself to the much more complicated lock on the safe. Many nerve-wracking minutes later, my tedious labor was rewarded with a loud clunk sound as the metal catch within the safe door released. Swinging it open excitedly, I was surprised as the chaos hells when a wave of fire blew out of the damnable little thing right into my face. I had gotten overly eager. I had rushed. I couldn't believe how stupid I was. I was no spell slinger, but I knew a little about magic. I even spent all that coin on my precautions. How in the abyss did I forget the magic dampening powder in my first mage robbery ever? All of that ran through my head in a split second, too quickly to even exclaim as I ducked and rolled backward, feeling my eyebrows singe. From across the room, I hear a squeal and a shattering sound as Amber drops a crystal vase she had been trying to decide was worth stealing or not. I rose to my feet, swearing as my face turned red, and I felt blisters begin to form on my cheeks. I didn't know much about magery, but I knew traps, and I assumed that once this one had been triggered, someone would know. That's the nature of magic, isn't it? "We have to go," I said to Amber in a loud whisper. "Take what you can. Wait for me at the back door." She nods, pausing only to empty a bit more loot from the mage's dressing table into her bag. I turned back to the now soot-filled safe. As I had hoped, the item I was there for did not appear to be harmed. Well, I couldn't make out what appeared to be the remains of papers, possibly business deals or trade arrangements, as it was all burned. There were still many things left in the safe. On the top shelf, my target, a small, hand-sized rectangular box of black wood, formerly polished, I assume. Next to that was the remains of a velvet tray full of gems, now dirty with soot and grime. The bottom fared better, a quiver with 3 intricately adorned wooden shafts, wands I would presume, and a silver goblet with a thick layer of dust as well as fresh ash. Well, a little dirt never hurt any loot in my opinion, so after pocketing the box, I quickly poured the gems, cup, and a good quantity of ash into my own loot pouch, then grabbed the wand quiver before rushing down the stairs after Amber. She was waiting for me at the back door, as expected, but what wasn't expected was the loud knocking on glass reverberating from the front of the establishment. Looking that way, I could see it was obviously Jimmy, false mustachioed face pressed against the glass window, looking right at me and banging on it. Not frantically, but insistently. We had no time. I quickly shove a hand into the pouch of the fine sand powder and just throw it at the back door before disengaging the lock. I didn't even wait to see the blue glow. I hear a raised voice at the front of the store. The shopkeeper had returned quickly from wherever he was, possibly alerted to the intruder by the spell trap that I had triggered. Jimmy was now distracting him, pretending to be a customer asking inane questions at the storefront after closing hours, doing his best to buy us the few extra seconds we needed. Just like that, Amber and I were out the back door. I closed and relocked the door behind us. We began casually strolling up the alleyway, arm in arm as a couple would. Suddenly, from behind, I hear,
"Hey, buddy. You have anything to spare for a wharf rat down on his luck?"
I turn to see a rising pile of trash. From it emerges an emaciated rodent man beggar.
"You two youngsters look like you just got paid,"
he says, and begins walking towards us. His beady, rodential eyes scanned us.
"Surely you can spare something?"
My eyes narrowed. I whispered to Amber, "Go meet with Jimmy at the spot. I'll see you both back at the diver's hall in a half-candle mark." She hesitates, looking me in the eyes for a moment, as though about to say something, then turns and obeys my directions. I turn away from her and take a step towards the rat bum with a smile on my face. Why, yes, good friend, of course. I'm always generous with the unfortunate. As I step towards the rodent man, a coin seems to appear in my left hand, like I've practiced so many times. I let it roll across my knuckles, catching the light, then present it to him between thumb and forefinger, simultaneously crushing a rose petal in my palm with my middle fingers. "Shiny for you, my new friend," I say as I extend the gold towards him, attempting a trick I had learned recently. His clawed fingers reached at the gold for a moment, his beady eyes going glassy. Had it worked? Then his long nose quivers.
"Rose petals? Rose petals? Did you just try to beguile me?"
"Oh, my friend, you are so unfortunate," I say as I close the distance with him. I reveal my right hand gripping a long, slender, and very sharp bronze dirk. Too bad for him, I guess. It's just business, but I can't allow witnesses. Contract work. Dealing with the wand dealer. Completed. Optional. Don't get fingered. Don't leave witnesses. Completed. Later that evening, we meet up at the Divers Hall. It was really just a front for the divers' dirty business, but still functioned as a public house for drinking, eating, meetings, and merriment. After I had delivered the small box, unopened, as promised to my employer, I got paid. I visited my fence and unloaded the silver cup, as well as the jewelry Amber had purloined. I tried to pawn the wands with him as well, but he was not into potentially dangerous and traceable magic baubles. So, the three of us divvy up our collected loot in a private back room of the hall. We split 1 share to Jimmy, 2 for Amber as the second person inside, and 3 for me as the boss. Nevertheless, they both seemed happy with their share of the gems and coin. Amber offered to buy us all the first round of drinks, so we found a table in the main area and discussed what to do with our other loot. Witchcraft was none of our specialties, but I did know a guy who might be able to help us discern the powers and salability of these magic sticks. Amber leaned in close so she didn't have to yell over the noisy band.
Never took you for a finger waggler. You go to school for this or something? Nah, I don't even know much, I responded over the din of the crowd. Just a few tricks I picked up here and there. Besides, I looked around conspiratorially, then leaned in and whispered, mages have always seemed kind of untrustworthy to me. I've been told they can't get a read on me, and that sounds like an excuse for fakers. As I looked into her gold-colored eyes, I felt a kind of kindred spirit. And hey, there are some other things a girl with her looks and athleticism might be good at, especially when she smiles at me that way. Several hours later. New side quest, Kindling the Flames. I honestly don't even remember how we got here. I recall us divvying up our loot after the wand seller job. Then I ordered my favorite dish for all 3 of us. Fried shrimp on a bed of buttered noodles with a spicy black garlic sauce. We ate and laughed, genuinely enjoying each other's company. It was Jimmy that suggested we go out for a celebratory drink of spirits, seeing as how I was sure to be made a family man soon after this. One drink led to another, then it became a blur. Suddenly, Amber and I are sitting alone on the docks, watching the flicker of the phosphorescent algae in the bay as we pour our hearts out to each other. I find myself finishing the story of how I dealt with my first zombie encounter when I was a runaway kid in the dark forest. I picked a dirty femur up from the ground, and I could feel, I don't know, a static shock. There was some kind of energy welling up inside me. I released it at the zombie, a flash, and it somehow burned the thing. She laughed and leaned close. I bet you were terrified. I nod slowly, looking off into the distance, reliving those awful memories. I should have been looking back into her eyes and leaning in to kiss her, but I didn't function well when inebriated. She looked at me for a while, then leaned against me in a half-hug kind of way, laying her head on my shoulder. Can I ask you something? She said. I continue staring at the light show from the ocean, my head doing the slight spinnies. Just don't be offended if I give you an honest answer, I said, ending with a single, ha! She smiled. I'll do my best. Then let out a long, slow sigh. How do you feel about the moon elves? She finally asks. Startled, I took a deep breath and began. The thrice-damned, pixie-fornicating moon elves, you mean? They think we should all bow down and smooch their asses, worship the ground they walk on, just because they happen to show up at the end of the Draconic Revolution and help a little. Those fey chokers didn't save us. They think they're so wise and strong and powerful because they live to be hundreds of years old. They think they know better than us. What is best for us? They rip families apart with their plans. But the dragons lived for thousands of years and did all that magic shite to every one of us, and look what we did to them in the end. Yeah, I can get along with most other elves. Even the moon cheese elfies are not bad one-on-one, but they all still have this attitude.
put us in a cage match. Bet I could teach them some humility. I finally noticed her eyes were downcast as my anger poured out. There was a moment of awkward silence as I realized I had been ranting. I quickly changed the subject. I asked her, were you named Amber because of your eyes? She smiled at that. Is it that obvious? She says with a laugh in her voice. My dad wasn't so imaginative after my mother died. But what about you? She turns the question around on me. They call you the Wolf, but never to your face. What is your real name? I took a long moment, looking up at the waning moon for inspiration. I have never really had one. If I had to choose one, I would be Torne. My mind raced around, torn between nicknames that others have called me, Cutter, Needle, Smoker, and honorific ones based on my skills like Shadow and Ghost. Before I could finish my thought, she exclaimed, Torne is a great name. She moves my head to look me in the eyes. And that's what I'm going to call you. With that firm declaration, she leans in and kisses me fiercely on the lips. I think I can be Torne for her. Side quest, Kindling the Flames. Progress made. Level up. Level 3. Unchained Rogue 2, Knife Master. Fighter 1, Knife Fighter. I'm still a little hazy on just what happened that night. I remembered some, mostly things between Amber and I that I will not relate here. But Jimmy and Amber both laughed that I couldn't hold my liquor, which is true. I've never been able to. More of a honey mead man myself. Actually, I have always leaned towards smoking green herbs or the aromas of the thick brown leaves of the nomad folk and their tent shrines. My accomplices both swear that we decided to split up the wands between the three of us. That doesn't really sound like me, but I was probably pretty drunk. And I am the type that is a go-with-the-flow kind of drunk, where every idea sounds like a great idea to me. Blah, I'm not going to drink around those two again. I am supposed to take advantage of people, not the other way around. I'll just call this the cost of doing business. I took my arcane contact's advice, went outside of town, and found an old, dilapidated hunter's shack for target practice. The magical wand I still had was supposed to spring forth flames in a beam directed by the tiny ruby at the tip. I admired the work that was put into this fragile little baton. I wasn't sure what kind of wood it was, but the handle was some kind of ivory or scrimshaw, covered in elvish words and runes, a few sparkling with magic, but most appearing burnt out. It was a different dialect of elf than I knew, but I recognized some of the phrases. Proper authorities only, do not use underwater, extreme caution. Well, I guess I am the only authority you have left, little wand. Now, what did he say the command word was? I point the wand and speak aloud. Novice. Nothing happened. That feeling in your gut when you realize you've been screwed. No, wait, I remember. I point again and say, Novus. There is a slight tingling sensation in my hand as one of the runes sparks loudly, bzzzt, and the tiny gem starts to glow. A marble-sized bead of orange energy flies from the ruby tip, impacting the shack with a deep growling sound and engulfing everything in a huge ball of fire. My instincts pull me behind a rock, into a crouching stance. I was too close for this! The hunter's shack was just a large bonfire, burning and crackling like a pyre. I stood admiring what I had done and smiled. Now I've got some real power.